Welcome to the Zana AI Talk podcast channel. We love to take these complex topics and break them down so they're easier to understand, make them bite-sized. And today we're doing a deep dive into AI and fraud detection. You've sent us some really cool stuff for this one. Academic papers, industry reports, even a company blog post. Seems like you're really interested in how this tech is being used to protect our money in the digital world.
And it's a pretty wild story.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. What's fascinating is that AI is not just some, futuristic thing anymore. It's out there right now fighting fraud. It's almost like a superpowered detective, sifting through tons of transactions and spotting those tiny little red flags that humans might miss.
So, okay, let's break this down a little bit. We've all heard about traditional fraud detection, right? Like back in the day, it was all about fixed rules and humans just like drowning in data. But the problem is it couldn't keep up, right? Yeah. Fraudsters were changing their tactics way too fast.
Exactly. Yeah, those older systems were always behind, always playing catch-up. They'd only spot fraud after it already happened.
Oh, that's frustrating.
It is. And sometimes they'd flag legitimate transactions as suspicious. Like, come on. Total waste of time and resources, not to mention all the frustrated customers.
I can only imagine. But now we've got AI and especially machine learning coming in to save the day.
Right.
These algorithms, they're like learning machines, constantly chewing on data, getting better at recognizing patterns and anomalies that could signal fraud.
And the cool thing is AI can analyze huge amounts of data in real time. So it catches fraud as it's happening, not after the damage is done.
So it's proactive instead of reactive. I like that.
Yeah. And it's constantly learning and evolving so it can spot those super subtle patterns that humans might miss entirely.
One of the sources mentioned JP Chase. They started using AI-powered fraud detection, and their fraudulent activity just plummeted. They had way fewer false positives, which means happier customers, and they saved a ton of money.
Yeah, it's a really impressive example. It just highlights how AI is making financial systems more secure and improving the customer experience at the same time. Win-win, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But we have to remember, AI isn't perfect.
Oh, right. It's easy to get caught up in the hype and think it's a magic bullet, but there are limitations.
Our sources definitely pointed that out. For example, AI mostly learns from past data. So while it's amazing at spotting known patterns, it might struggle with brand new, never-before-seen schemes.
That's right. It's like if it hasn't seen it before, it might not recognize it.
And we can't forget about the human element either, can we? AI is great in the digital world, but...
Oh, you mean like social engineering?
Exactly. Things like phishing emails, phone scams where they trick people into giving up their information. That stuff can still work, even with the most advanced AI system.
It's true. One of the sources talked about Sade Telecom. They had all these fancy fraud detection systems, but got hit by a simple invoice scam.
Wow.
Proves that human awareness is still key.
No matter how much tech we have, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a constant game of cat and mouse.
Absolutely. As we develop better AI, the fraudsters are upping their game too. They're using AI to come up with new ways to trick the system.
Oh, so it's an AI arms race. Kind of scary, honestly.
Yeah, the stakes are getting higher for sure.
Yep.
We're seeing fraudsters using AI to create these incredibly realistic deepfakes, like fake videos, voices, even documents that are almost impossible to tell from the real thing.
That's wild. One of our sources, Deloitte, predicted that these AI-powered scams could lead to losses of like $40 billion in the U.S. alone by 2027.
It's a staggering amount, and it really emphasizes how important it is to stay ahead of the curve,
Yeah, develop those countermeasures, keep innovating.
Exactly. And the good news is AI is being used to fight fraud across all sorts of industries, not just banking and credit cards.
It's everywhere, isn't it?
We read about how Shopify, the e-commerce platform, uses AI to predict chargeback fraud. That helps online businesses see those red flags before losing money.
Oh, that's smart. So we see how big companies are using it, but what about the average person? What can we do to protect ourselves?
That's the million-dollar question. Well, first, stay informed. Be aware of the latest scams, especially those involving AI. Subscribe to security newsletters or follow trustworthy sources.
Basically, stay in the loop, keep our finger on the pulse.
Exactly. And definitely pay attention to those warning or alerts you get from your bank or financial institutions. Don't just ignore them.
Good point. Sometimes I'm guilty of that. What about online interactions? Those phishing schemes are so tricky these days.
Yeah, you got to be super careful with unsolicited messages. Never click suspicious links or download attachments from senders you don't know. And never, ever give out your personal information unless you're 100% sure who you're dealing with.
Okay, so be cautious, Use strong passwords, two-factor authentication, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Think of it as your digital armor.
Our sources also talked a lot about monitoring our accounts regularly.
Yeah, it's a good habit to check your bank statements, credit card bills for any weird activity. Look for transactions you don't recognize, changes to your personal information. And if you see anything fishy, even if you're not totally sure, report it.
Better safe than sorry, right?
Right. And one of our sources, TrustPair, actually specializes in AI-powered fraud detection. They have a really helpful guide called AI for Fraud Detection, the complete guide, full of practical tips for individuals and businesses.
We'll link to that in the show notes.
Definitely. It's a valuable resource.
So AI is obviously having a huge impact. But like we said, it's not a perfect solution. What challenges do organizations face when implementing it? It can't be as easy as just plug and play, right?
No, not at all. One of the biggest hurdles is data. AI, especially machine learning, needs massive amounts of data to work properly, but getting that data, cleaning it, managing it, it's a whole thing. It can be expensive and complex.
And the quality of that data is just as important as the quantity.
Oh, totally. If you feed an AI bad data, you're going to get bad results.
Yeah.
Like trying to bake a cake with rotten eggs, you know?
Yeah, makes sense. So what about human experts? Where do they fit in?
That's a great question. We can't just rely on AI to do everything. Human expertise is still essential. We need people to design, implement, and oversee these systems. Think of it as a partnership.
Human intelligence and artificial intelligence working together.
Exactly. Two heads are better than one, right? AI is a powerful tool, but it's not a replacement for human judgment and experience. We need both to win this fight against fraud.
And keeping up with the constant changes in AI must be a challenge in itself. It's evolving so rapidly.
It really is. It's like trying to hit a moving target. Organizations need to be flexible and willing to update their systems all the time to stay ahead. No room for complacency here.
Always learning, always adapting. Sounds exhausting.
It can be, but it's also incredibly exciting.
Speaking of exciting, what's next? What cool developments in AI and fraud detection should we be keeping our eyes on?
One trend that's gaining a lot of traction is federated learning.
Federated learning. That's new to me. What is it?
It's basically a way for AI systems to learn from data that's spread across different sources without actually having to share the raw data itself.
That sounds interesting, but I'm not sure I totally get it. Can you give an example?
Okay, imagine you have several banks, each with their own database of info about past fraud cases. Traditionally, to train a shared AI model, they'd have to physically share all of their data.
Which brings up all sorts of privacy concerns.
Exactly. But with federated learning, they can train that common model without ever directly exchanging their sensitive data. It's like magic.
So each bank keeps its data private, but the AI model still learns from all of it. That's really cool.
Right. You get the benefits of collaboration without the privacy risks.
What other cool stuff is out there?
Another really interesting area is explainable AI, or XAI.
Explainable AI. So AI that can explain itself.
Basically, yes. Right now, a lot of AI models are like black boxes. We know they work, but we don't always understand why.
And that's a problem, right? Especially with fraud detection. You want transparency and accountability. You need to know why it's making certain decisions.
Exactly. So researchers are working hard to develop systems that can provide clear explanations for their predictions, like having an AI detective that can show you their work.
Now that makes sense. It would definitely build trust and make it easier for humans to understand and oversee the AI's decisions.
And it could also address those concerns about potential bias in algorithms.
Right, because if we can understand how the AI is making its decisions, we can make sure those decisions are fair. Explainable AI sounds amazing.
It's really promising. It could transform how we use AI in all kinds of fields.
It's incredible to think about. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with AI.
We really are. This field is going to explode in the coming years.
Okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's step back and think about what we've learned. What are the key takeaways?
I think the biggest one is that AI is totally changing the game when it comes to fraud detection. But it's not a set-it-and-forget-it solution. We have to use it strategically.
And remember those limitations, right?
Totally. We can't blindly trust the algorithms. We need to be aware of those limitations and be proactive in protecting ourselves.
So staying informed, being cautious, all that good stuff is still super important, even with AI on our side.
Definitely. It's an exciting time, but we have to be smart about it.
You've painted a fascinating picture of the future of fraud detection. It's definitely exciting, but also a little bit scary. Like the idea of deep fakes powered by AI, That's a little unsettling.
It is, but I'm optimistic. The same technology that can be used for bad can also be used for good.
Yeah.
And with all these advancements like federated learning and explainable AI, the future looks pretty bright.
It's going to be a constant race to stay ahead, isn't it? So what can organizations do to prepare for this AI-powered future?
They need to invest in robust AI systems and build the expertise to manage them properly.
But access to data and skilled people varies widely. How can we ensure that everyone benefits from these AI advances?
That's a critical point. We have to address the digital divide and make sure everyone has the resources and training to use AI effectively.
And I imagine regulations will play a big role too, right? Making sure AI is used ethically,
Mhm.
especially in finance where it's so sensitive.
Absolutely. We need clear guidelines and standards for using AI in fraud detection.
I'd love to hear more about those regional differences in AI adoption that you mentioned.
Sure, our sources pointed out some interesting comparisons between the banking sectors in the US and Nigeria. In the US, banks have access to advanced infrastructure, skilled people, and well-established regulations. That's allowed them to adopt AI pretty quickly.
But it's a different story in Nigeria.
Right. Many banks there have limited tech infrastructure and struggle to get the data they need to train AI systems. There's also a shortage of AI professionals.
So the benefits are clear, but there are also barriers to adoption in certain regions. What can we do about that?
Investing in infrastructure, developing AI expertise, and creating supportive regulations are crucial steps.
Sounds like a big collaborative effort is needed. Governments, financial institutions, tech providers, everyone working together.
Absolutely. It's a team effort.
We've covered so much in this deep dive. It's clear AI is a powerful tool in the fight against fraud, but we need to be aware of its limitations, work together, and use it for good.
I completely agree.
But before we wrap up this first part, I want to shift gears for a minute. We've talked a lot about institutions and organizations, but what about us? What about the role of individuals?
It's a great question. It's easy to feel like this is all happening out there and we have no power to influence it, but that's not true at all.
So what can we do, not just to protect ourselves, but to actually create a more secure world?
One of the biggest things is being mindful of our digital footprint. The info we share, the websites we visit, the apps we use, it all contributes to this massive pool of data that can be used for good or bad.
Right, and data fuels AI systems.
Exactly. By being more careful about what we share and who we share it with, we can help limit the amount of data that falls into the wrong hands.
That's a good reminder. Sometimes I just share stuff without thinking about the consequences.
It's worth taking a pause and thinking about our digital habits. And it's not just about protecting ourselves, but also about protecting others. Think about those phishing scams. They often work because they exploit our trust in our friends and family.
So if we're more careful about what we click, what we share, and what we believe online, we can actually help break those chains of deception.
Exactly. And if we do fall for a scam or if we see something suspicious, report it. Don't stay silent.
Share those experiences, raise awareness.
It's about taking responsibility for ourselves and for others.
That's a great point. It's not just about preventing financial losses. It's about protecting our privacy, our security, our trust in these digital systems that are everywhere these days.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's a lot to think about. Well, on that note, I think we've reached a good stopping point for this first part of our deep dive. We've covered so much, from how AI is being used to detect fraud, to the mind-blowing possibilities of federated learning and explainable AI.
It's been a great discussion.
We'll be back soon with the second part to continue this fascinating conversation. See you then.
You know, as we dive deeper into this AI and fraud detection world, it really makes you think about all the data out there. Just mountains of it.
It's true. It's like we're leaving a digital fingerprint everywhere we go online. And if that data falls into the wrong hands,
That's the scary part. Data privacy is a huge deal, especially when it comes to our financial info.
absolutely. So organizations need to be super careful, right?
Absolutely. They need really strong security to protect that data.
Things like encryption, access controls, regular checks, all that.
Exactly. And just as important is being transparent with customers about how that data is being used.
So we know what's happening and can make informed choices. It's about trust, right?
It is. Trust between companies and customers, but also trust in the technology itself. If people don't trust AI, they're not going to use it.
And that could hinder the whole fight against fraud. It's a tricky balance, using this powerful technology while also protecting everyone's privacy.
No easy answers there, but regulations can help.
One of our sources mentioned something called GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. Seems like a positive step.
Yeah, GDPR is a good example of how regulations can promote responsible AI use. But it's not just about rules, right? Organizations need to build ethical AI practices from the start.
So baking in fairness, transparency, accountability right into their AI systems.
Exactly. We need to make sure these AI systems aren't biased or discriminating against certain groups. Especially with fraud detection, the consequences can be really serious.
It's a good reminder that AI isn't neutral. It reflects the values of the people who create it.
That's why diversity in AI development is so crucial. We need people from all walks of life with different perspectives to make sure AI is fair for everyone.
This all makes me think about the bigger picture. How will all this AI adoption affect society as a whole? I mean, we know it's going to change things drastically, but are we ready?
It's the million-dollar question. AI has the potential to solve some of the world's toughest problems, but it also has its risks.
Jobs being replaced, algorithms being biased, the potential for AI to be used for harm. It's a lot to consider.
It is, and those are just a few of the challenges we need to think about and address head on.
Sounds like we need a serious conversation about the future we want to build with AI.
Couldn't agree more. We need to be proactive in shaping how AI is developed and used to make sure it benefits everyone.
And that conversation needs to include everyone, not just the tech experts, all right?
Absolutely. We need people from all backgrounds and perspectives to weigh in.
It's a big task, but also an incredibly exciting time to be alive.
We're on the cusp of a technological revolution, and we have the power to steer it in the right direction.
It's our responsibility to make sure AI is a force for good.
You know, this whole exploration of AI and fraud detection has really highlighted some complex issues: data privacy, ethical considerations, and the wider impact on society. It's a lot to unpack.
We've seen how powerful AI can be in fighting fraud, but we've also seen how important it is to be responsible, transparent, and think about the kind of future we're building.
This part of our deep dive has hopefully given everyone some food for thought.
Absolutely. We'll be back soon with the final part to wrap up our exploration and look ahead to what the future holds. Stay tuned.
Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into AI and fraud detection. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? We've talked tech, ethics, the whole shebang.
It really has. We've learned so much.
Yeah.
But before we wrap things up, I want to take a minute to, reflect on everything and look ahead too. What's next for AI and fraud detection? What does the future hold?
Great idea. So, what stood out to you the most? Anything particularly surprising or thought-provoking?
I think what really struck me was the sheer speed of it all. How fast this field is evolving. Every day it's like, bam, new breakthrough, new challenge. It's a whirlwind.
The pace of innovation in AI is mind-boggling, and it's only going to get faster.
Which is exciting, but also kind of makes you go, whoa, hold on a sec. So in this crazy world of AI-powered fraud detection, what skills do we need? What knowledge is going to be most valuable?
Well, critical thinking about data is going to be huge. Like we've been saying, data is essential for training AI, but data can be tricky, it can be misleading, biased, all sorts of things.
So we need to be able to assess data sources, look for biases, draw meaningful conclusions. Data literacy is key.
100%. Another crucial skill is going to be collaboration. AI is a team sport. You need people with different skills working together to build, implement, manage these systems.
So good communication, teamwork, being able to work across disciplines.
Exactly. And being adaptable, too, willing to learn and grow. This field is constantly changing, so we have to embrace those changes.
It sounds like a lot of the skills that are valuable today are going to be even more important in the future.
That's true. But there's also going to be a growing need for specialized AI skills. Things like data science, machine learning, AI ethics.
So a mix of transferable skills and specialized knowledge.
Yeah.
What kind of jobs are we talking about here? What are some emerging career paths?
Oh, there's so many possibilities. Data scientists, AI engineers, machine learning specialists, those are already in high demand. And I think we'll see new roles emerge too. AI ethicists, AI auditors, even AI explainability experts.
Explainability experts. Wow. It's amazing how AI is opening up all these new opportunities.
It really is. But with all this tech, it's important to remember AI is really about people.
It's about using tech to solve problems, to create value, to make the world a better place.
Exactly. And AI has incredible potential to do all of that.
I'm feeling inspired.
Me too.
I hope our listener is feeling inspired too. Is there anything else you want to share before we sign off? Any parting words of wisdom?
Just a reminder to stay curious, stay informed, stay engaged. The future of AI is being shaped right now. We can all be a part of it.
Well said. On that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive. We've explored this amazing world of AI and fraud detection, looking at the good, the bad, and everything in between.
We've seen how AI can make our financial systems safer, but also how important it is to use AI responsibly, to collaborate, and to always remember the human element.
We hope you've enjoyed this journey with us.
And that you'll continue exploring this fascinating field.
If you liked what you heard today, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into topics that matter. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning. Please subscribe to our channel.